Got it.
Welcome to another episode of Out of the Blank. But Sarah, introduce us. Come on.
Hey, out of the blank. I'm Sarah Jean. Isn't that what you usually call me?
Sarah
Right?
Jean. It was Libido. Now it's Sarah Jean. Is this,
Impaglia.
yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not really sure which direction we're gonna go today. We're gonna keep it light and fun. I haven't been on in a while. I know I've been on, I think this is my fourth time.
Fourth time or possibly third. I don't remember if it was the one time we tried to record and then it just didn't go.
Yeah, we've had a lot of where we tried, but it didn't work out. But here we are today. It's gonna be great.
We've had many conversations, and I'm interested if I'm talking to the real Sarah, because apparently there's multiple varieties or variations of Sarah's out there, and I'm curious.
Yes, this is her. I can't believe that. Like I can because I feel like it like comes with the territory. People making fake profiles for anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about. I had someone recently make two fake profiles of me, which I wouldn't find such a big deal, but one of them, they're like selling nudie pictures. And I'm like so tempted. Like I want to see what the pictures are. Like I'm assuming it's some chick with not showing her face, or else they'd know immediately it wasn't me.
Wait,
Or I don't know.
if they're
Like they
selling
already have the money. It doesn't matter at that point, or
if they're selling nudie pictures of you, does that mean like there's a thing that says like you have to pay this much and you'll see the photos?
yeah. I mean, if you click on the link in the profile, it takes you to what I assume is like OnlyFans, and I have nothing against people who do OnlyFans. That's fine. I just don't want my followers clicking on it, paying, expecting to see pictures of me because they're not me.
Man, I guess it's just good for me that I'm fugly looking
Oh my
because
God, no, you're not.
I tried to look at like if there was any fake profiles of me out there. I just kept getting like when I would take my phone, my picture of my face and put it into like my Google scanner thing, it would just pop
Yeah,
up pictures of Tom Holland, like
Tom Holland.
100%. So I was just like, I'm not really worried about somebody making a fake profile of me. But you and Adam both are people that I know that have fake accounts made about them. But which way are you taking it though? Are you taking it like this is crazy, this is insane, or are you taking it like, oh, it's kind of like a compliment because they are making multiple. It sucks that they're doing it in a bad way. Like they could be doing something positive and motivational, like talk to Sarah Jean. She's very popular and awesome to talk to, but they're just getting a fake version of you. So I mean, it has to be crazy just thinking that somebody would just. But there's people out there that they feel like they have to use somebody else's image because you're might be that important of a figure to them. Maybe it's me.
Yeah, I'd hope not. But actually, this isn't the first time this has happened to me. Get this story. I want to say this was like last summer. This girl messaged me, and her brother was dating this girl, and the girl he was dating, like they met up, they were seeing each other in real life, but the girl he was dating was lying, saying that she owned a weld shop and that she was a welder, and all of her pictures were stolen from my profile but with my hood down so you couldn't see my face. So she, like, I guess all over her Facebook and Instagram, all of her weld pictures were stolen and were pictures of me. Yeah, and I had the sister asked me to like message her brother, and I guess the brother is still with her, and I part of me thinks it's flattering. Like obviously that girl is going through something where she feels that she has to do that. You know what I mean? So there's that aspect of it. I don't know with the attached to the porn stuff. I just don't want like I'm not looking for a new job or anything, but what if I was like in the job market, and I was applying to jobs and they were looking me up and they found that, some people might like frown upon that, I don't know. It is what it is, I guess. And so many people have reported it, a ton of people, and Instagram will not take it down. They responded to me and said they can't find them doing anything wrong, really.
Yeah, it's weird what they censor. Like they'll censor a video if it's possibly misinformation, but you'll see an ISIS head shopping video on
Yeah.
YouTube or something like that, which is nuts to me. But I think you're the part of the reason I got really interested into and I'm probably going to mention it again, but the new Bob Ross documentary on Netflix. I don't know if you've seen that, but
Yeah.
it's insane how like he's dead and they're still using his image. Some company owns the rights to his likeliness, and his family doesn't even own it. They're like,
Oh
they're
wow.
selling things of Bob Ross, and that's like, it's this whole like, you watch it, it's like watching Tiger King, where you end up hating Carolyn Baskins, whatever her last name is, on
Carol
that.
Baskins. Yeah.
That's exactly how this Bob Ross thing makes you hate the people that are doing this, because they're just using his image and just, and I don't see, that's what I can get upset about, is that the fact that as a person you build up so much credit in such a way, and then I
Yeah.
mean, but you see it all the time though. You just never think it's going to happen to you. Like Brendan Fraser has
Yeah.
multiple Twitter accounts that are things to him. There, it would be nice if it was a Sarah Jean fan account where it's like, I'm a
Yeah.
fan of Sarah Jean, I'm not her. But then people make and the weird part is they're doing porno stuff while you're pregnant, which is like, what the like, I'm very curious to see what these photos are that they say they have of you.
Me too. And that's the only thing is like, I don't want to give them my money. You know what I mean? Because my brother was like, you should pay for it. Like, I'm curious too. Like, look to see what it is. Because he's like, what if it's like a big dick, you know? Because after people pay for it, they're, you know, if they pay for it, that's it. They already have their money. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I'm curious. I'm curious what it is that they're selling. And one of the pictures, I'm in a bikini. And to me, I very clearly look pregnant, but I'm all belly. So unless you see me from the side, it's like hard to tell. So I think this person doesn't realize that in a lot of those pictures they posted of me that I'm pregnant. I think that they just can't tell that I'm pregnant.
Yeah, I think that's probably. I don't see, after watching that. I do recommend that Bob Ross documentary to you. It's going to you're gonna want to paint a lot. That's for me. I was like, I need to paint.
Oh my
But
God.
towards the ending of it, you really start to get heartbroken at the fact of like using likeliness and all this manipulational tactics that go on in the world. And you got like, when you watch the show Catfish, it's,
I love that show.
yeah, but there's an empathy factor of when you see the person, you're like, oh, this person is like
Yeah.
really, it's really, really hard. And, but I don't know. It's just, it's a crazy times we're living in. It's hard to know what's real. I know that's probably got to be on your mind, but you can't really worry about that. I mean, the fact that you're about to be a mom soon, so that's going to be a whole new experience once in its own.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I haven't really let it bother me the last 2 days. There's only like a hundred followers on there. And then the second account that I found, it's private, so I have no idea even what they're posting or how long these profiles have been around. But yeah, that's like you just said. I'm just focused on I could literally go into labor at any moment. Today's my first day of maternity leave, and oh, it feels awesome
I
just to
told you we could
relax.
have waited on the podcast. I'm going to look like a major douchebag just having you talk in the middle
Oh,
of a car.
no, 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 no. I insisted. I insisted. It's not hot out today. It actually feels real nice out here.
Does it feel
It's
like
not bad.
the calm before the storm?
A little, a little. Dude, we've had so much rain the past few days. Like yesterday was our 1 year anniversary. We hoped to get out on the boat and stuff, but it just rained all day. It's actually not that bad because the heat being pregnant, it gets to you. It really does. And
Yeah.
so today it feels nice. It feels nice.
Is there anything you have left to do before the baby comes, and there's anything you're going to plan on doing afterwards?
Our house is still torn apart. So what we're doing is the master, or I guess not master, but the bedroom that we're in now is going to be a nursery, and we're redoing the master bedroom. We took two bedrooms and we're turning it into one master, and it's not done yet. We had so many holdups. We had like three back-to-back deaths. My dad died, and then his brother died, and then our cat died, and then his grandma died. So we got a little held up there. So he's still not finished. So we still have to finish that. Like we have everything ready for her. I have it all organized. It's in baskets, but the room's not done. So we have to finish that. And I've told myself not to let myself panic, because either way, the first few months, they recommend that you have baby sleep with you. And she's not gonna, I keep telling myself, like, she's not gonna even remember, if she has her own room or not. So I don't let myself get stressed about it. And it will be nice because we're both gonna get paid time off after she's here. So if it's not done before she's here, we'll both have paid time off. He can get it done after she's here. Honestly, I just I'm gonna have a rule. Like our parents can come over, but no visitors. I just want it to be me, him, baby, us to bond and fall into our routine and figure out how life's gonna be. Because I hear it's a lot for moms. Like you go through this traumatic experience giving birth, and then like you lose your sense of identity, kind of. Like dad can still go out, you know, where baby's like attached to my boobs. So
it's it's
it's a lot.
it's gonna sound stupid, but I think you're one of very few people in my, at least in my life, that I look to as like a very good sign of resilience. How much you can
Well,
kind of
thank
get
you.
tossed at you, and you don't really seem to. You might be like under the skin, definitely like scared about it a little bit, but you hold it down pretty well. And I think that's like the looks of it too. Is most of the battle is like mentally you when you look in the mirror and you feel like you're gonna suck it up, or you're gonna have a good day, you're gonna keep it going. I'm like, but that's the main part of the battle too, is because if you can look in the mirror and you don't seem distressed, like maybe I have to put on this thing until I get home and I can cry about it later. But most of the time you don't need to cry about it later, because you forget about it, because you've already went out into the world and got your day going. You make things happen. And I think that's like, everyone looks to like motivational people like artists or celebrities or stuff like that. I'm like, most of the time, like you can examine a person who's going through like about to having a kid and having so much going on, and you can really pull something from that. Like even to me, like putting on a sock, that's already pretty like fucking like managing a lot right there. Like for a lot of people, like they can't get out of bed. I think we both had like the past weekend where we were just like laying down, like I didn't really do anything. It's like, but did you not do anything in the grand scheme of what you do on a daily basis? Because I mean, we consider everything with our routines. I think that's what messed up a lot of the world, was our routines. Oh, I can't do my routine. I can't do this. I've always done this. Now they're saying I can't do this. Now there's a health hazard. Now there's a tornado warning, or now there's this. And I'm like, yeah, but just because you didn't do the same thing you do every single day, in the grand scheme of things, what did you do today? Maybe you caught up on sleep. Okay, then that's also being successful. Maybe you just
Yeah.
laid around and I don't like me days. I don't like the I need to have a day where it's just me to myself, just not doing shit. And I'm like, that's because life is kind of draining, and then you need those days. But if you can have an experience where you're like, I went outside and I just sat on the back porch, you get a lot from that. Like examine that moment. If you split that in half and you really looked at what you experienced, maybe you saw the trees moving, maybe you smelled some fresh air, maybe you had just this
Yeah.
overall experience. Like over the weekend I was driving to my buddy's house, and he lives about 45 minutes away from where I do, so it's always a hassle fucking driving there. I hate it. I don't like driving. I used to when I was a kid, but then I mean, I'm still
Yeah.
technically a kid, but I was driving there and I was like, well, I live in a beach town, so you get to see the sun come up. I'm always there first thing in the morning. I'm seeing the sun come up on the water. And as I was driving, a person was in front of me on a motorcycle going like 20 miles an hour in a 55. And I'm like,
Oof.
like, I'm listening to headphones, I'm listening to music. I'm like, oh, come on. And then he just waved his arm like this to go around him. And I was like, I wasn't even mad at it, because I realized he's paying attention to the scenery that's around him on his motorcycle. It's a beautiful fucking day. You
Oh,
gotta enjoy that experience. And I think throughout the daily parts of our everyday life, we miss on those very small moments where, as I was a kid, and this is good advice for you, because I mean, not advice, but thing for you to like keep in your mind a little bit, is that your daughter's going to remember things that you don't even think are big things. I don't
yeah.
remember like some birthdays. I don't remember that, but I remember the smallest fucking moments where my grandma was telling me like, I was like, why are you always just doing one chip at a time? And she was like, you have to savor it. And then I tried it and I was like, that's ridiculous. But then now I look at it like, there are so many moments that nobody would have ever thought in a million years that this kid's going to remember this specific moment, but those are moments that I remember the most and I actually cherish the most. And I think you can create those in everyday parts of whatever your reality is, whatever your truth is, whatever you're observing in the moment. There are so many times at work where I'm focused on the task, but then I look back like, why am I remembering this certain day where everything seemed like it was about to storm like there, but the lights were set in such a way that it was like, I don't know, it's stuck into my mind for some reason.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't it weird, like what we remember? I have random flashbacks sometime, and I'm like, I wonder what about that moment makes me remember that. But I think it is really important, like you said, to slow down and be in the present moment and take in your surroundings. And it is hard, especially when we get out of our routine. That's funny that you said that, because I was just talking to my husband last night, because when I get up and go to work every day, there's certain things that I do at certain times that I've noticed that I haven't been doing just because I have been home. Maternity leave starts today, but I've been calling in a lot the past few weeks. Welding is too much this far along.
Yeah.
But like I do, like my gratitude list and journaling and stretching, I have certain times at work when I do that. So I haven't been doing that. So I had to Right. I like to make lists. I'm a list person. So I had a list, and this morning I stretched, and I'm trying to form a new routine for, this new day that I have or whatever. But yeah, I agree with what you were saying. Even just sitting outside, like that's grounding. And even if you take a day off, like I'm the type where I used to really beat myself up, and if I didn't go to work, like I just feel so guilty, like, oh, you're such a piece of shit. But I think it's important that we listen to our body, and if you're tired, you're tired. And lately I've just been letting myself, if I don't feel comfortable welding and working this far along, I'm gonna listen to my body and do what's right. And I'm not gonna feel guilty, because catching up on sleep, that's also important, or taking a day off of work or recording for you, maybe that's important, if your mind needs a break, all that's important. And you can't let yourself feel guilty over it, even though that's so much easier said than done. I know.
Well, you find the most clarity in some of the weirdest situations, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
Yeah.
most of the time, especially if I want to relate some things to my own personal experiences, is that there are plenty of times I don't want to do something and I end up always having to do it. But I think it's the main perceptional wall that you build up into your head, is that you get complacent in just the average, everyday, mundane thing. But as much as it seems like you should change it up, those are things that you miss the most, is just how easy and how you were doing this for so long. And it's also what leads to bad habits as well too. We get stuck in bad habits so much and we don't realize they're bad because we've done it every single day, every single time. That's all you really know. And then when you stop doing it, you're like, oh my God, I didn't realize how bad that was. I used to eat cabbage all the time, like cabbage with just raw cabbage with like tuna and all this all the time. I haven't
Raw.
had it. Yeah, because if you it's a fitness hack. So if you eat a lot of bread and you want to stop eating bread, just switch over to a raw cabbage leaf, because the crunch is the satisfactory thing in your brain that triggers like that bread thing. So like you don't
Okay.
need bread after a while. It's like eating a frozen grape whenever you're getting sweet cravings. It'll take away the sweet craving. And then also if you're hungry, are you hungry or are you bored? The main test is imagine an apple and then try and picture eating that apple. If you're bored, you're not going to be able to even think about eating an apple. But if you're hungry and you
Right.
can imagine that apple and eat it, then you are hungry. So
Yeah.
small little fitness tricks. But when I stopped having cabbage for so long, I now, whenever like we have it in our fridge now, I don't want it. I have no craving, no taste for it. And I realized that was like the worst thing for me, as much as healthy as it might be. It's not good in some areas when it comes to teeth health, when it comes to multiple different things. And it's like, okay, you start to realize like, yeah, this was an easy dieting trick. It was good in one way, but it was bad in another form when it comes to health, when it comes to your
Yeah.
dental, or when it comes to something else. It's very, very interesting. Like I always find it very, very funny looking back on things that I used to do to compare to things I used to do now, where I wondered, like, no wonder it was so simple and easy when you were a kid, because when you were a kid, your biggest worry was what you're going to wear to school the next day. And then now it becomes bills and all these other types of things,
Mm.
where you start to look at, like, I used to hate when I was a child. I think like every child did. Bedtime. Bedtime was the worst fucking thing. And then now it's
Yeah.
like, I just wish I could sleep. Like it's a weird like turnaround of events that happen. I think that's kind of what the point of life is. Like, you're not going to remember the weirdness and all the hatred of just having your page or your face or your image taken away from you, which is crazy. But you're going to remember when that child is born, everything after that, of the importance of, I don't remember dealing with this page. I remember being with my daughter or being with this experience and being in this moment and making sure like my biggest fear or my biggest thing was to make sure that she was going to turn out to be a great person, which is going to eventually happen. I mean, when you put that video on your story of your baby moving around in your stomach, I was like, it's like alien. And I was like, but
Yeah.
that's like the main thing is you're not like a lot of people would sit there and harbor on the hatred or harbor on this thing of this page or this thing that was made in your image, but you're not even thinking about that because you have bigger priorities. And that's you have that in your view because from where you were at maybe 10 years ago to where you're at now seemed impossible. And it's not impossible because you've done it.
Oh yeah, dude, for sure. I just it's so like unreal to me. Like I can't believe there's a little baby in there and she's gonna be in my arms soon. Like it's still just the wildest thing to me. But yeah, I mean, what more can I do? You know, I tried Instagram's not having it. I feel like I let everyone know who like the best that I can. I mean, yeah, it sucks, but it is what it is. And like you said, I have much bigger things. And I feel like becoming a parent in this day and age, it's so scary. You know what I mean? I'm like debating whether I should say this or not, but because I don't want to offend anyone, and but we have a lot of new younger people at my work, and it's not all of them, so I'm not like clumping them all in a category, but I've noticed uh like I don't know, just like this new generation, and maybe it's just because I'm from a different generation, whatever. Because I just some of their habits, and I just feel like they're pussies. Like
Mhm. I mean,
I don't know
I've said it,
what.
I think, in a recent episode was that the older generations, it wasn't really about being there for your kids. So there was a lot of neglect. It was about getting the bills paid and getting that done. And then all the
Yeah,
new generations now are all about being there 100% for your kid, every boo boo, every scratch. And
yeah,
then it's going to end up leading into the older generation where those kids are going to want to get away from their parents and not be around their kids. It's just a constant loop. It's the older generation that stayed away from their kids had another generation before them that was always there for their kids. And then it kind of leads down this trickling effect. So it's just interesting to see how people parent. I don't think there's any specific way to do it. I consider that if you just literally got your kid to the age of 18 to where they're not doing anything like they're not miserable with life 100%, which is like most of the world right now.
right.
I think you adapt to the situation that you're in. I mean, as a parent, you are going to adapt to a different situation than your parents adapt to a situation. And I think that's, I don't know. I can't give any advice on being a parent because I don't have any kids, but just as long as I think you have a good head on your shoulders with it. Like just being there as a friend, you talked about it and kind of like understanding like you can't control or do all these types of things. I think that's just the main importance. I think people have to make decisions for themselves. I think the best advice I've ever gotten was from my dad. He goes, the only reason I was never like, I never gave you any restrictions is because I was never worried about it. He's like, your biggest issue was that when someone talked to you with authority, you went the opposite direction. He goes, so I just told
Yeah,
you, I was like, when you would go out at 2 o'clock in the morning and skateboard, I just said, love you, be home, whatever. I don't care, because
yeah,
my parents worked all the time. So I was constantly by myself a lot. So, I mean, it was just a factor of like, I trust you. There you go. Have the trust there and expect them to, respect that. And I respected it. I was always home. I never not showed up, as long as I let them know or something like that. It was that easy. And people go, well, that's because you were with your dad. It was like, I don't think that's true though, because I know plenty of people that do that as a whether you're whatever your gender is. I think it's just a concept of you have to give a little bit of trust there. You don't know whenever you're going to go out to the out, even you, Sarah, or even me. We don't know if whatever we take a step out of the door, it's going to be our last moment. And
right.
but when you put that onto your kid, it's a different effect. It's the same result, but it's different because it's you. You care a little bit less about yourself than you do about your kid most of the time. So in the general
Yeah,
population of that, you're going to kind of like, you got to base your parenting on it's the first kid's obviously a learning process. And the second time you think you got it narrowed down, and then the second kid's different than the first. It's just weird. I don't think anybody has the proper tools to be a parent but I think you learn as you go. I think everyone kind of has this learn to go basis, much like when you did welding for the first time. You didn't know how to turn the torch on, you didn't know how to do all these different things, but you started doing it, and now you're good at it, where you have a account where you have bunch of people following you and shouting you out saying that you're, besides all the weird people that are stalking your profile, but you have a bunch of people that are saying like Sarah Jean, she's a, you know, and then they have your page and they say this is a thing from her and this is how amazing she is and how you can get to this position. That didn't just happen. That was
Yeah.
built. That was something you did and did over and over and over again. And as this routine got crafted out into something else, and now what you're about to begin on is a whole nother journey and a whole nother routine where it's going to take its own form. You're going to end up doing something probably amazing with it.
Yeah, I think there is no right or wrong way, and I like what you were saying. That's kind of the parent that I hope to be, because in my opinion, when you tell kids no or are too strict, they're not going to want to be open with you. And I want my daughter to have an open relationship with me, and I want her to feel comfortable talking to me about things that other parents might get mad at their kids for. You know what I mean? And I want to be in the loop, and I don't want to give her too many rules, and I want her to be independent and make her own choices and feel comfortable with me. And like you said, you kind of just have to go with it, and it goes from there. And I think the only thing that's solid is we can learn from our parents' mistakes. Like, both of us have amazing parents, but my husband comes from a divorced household, and so do I. And I mean, I can't promise that me and my husband won't get divorced, but that's something that we really want to work on, having a strong marriage or whatever. And the only thing we can do is learn from our parents' mistakes, because obviously they weren't perfect, and learn from things that didn't work from them. And that's all you can do, is the best that you can. I just get worried bringing a child into this world, the state of how the world is right now. Some people will be like, oh my God, like, why would you choose to bring a child into this world right now? But I think it's important to be raising the next generation with a good strong head on their shoulders. You know what I mean?
I'm
Or then who's going to
curious.
be left?
I'm
Who's
curious
going
to
to be left?
who's telling you not to have a kid right now. I mean, did they not look at the generations that have had kids in terrible situations? World War II, World War One, the Great Depression. People have
I've
kids.
heard it a few times.
It's a new problem. The world always experiences another problem. If you wait till all the problems are gone, there's
Yeah.
going to be no people to repopulate the earth because the earth will be
Yeah.
gone. There's always a bigger issue, no matter whatever it
Yes.
is. And I think talking with a sleep scientist who shared her pregnancy dreams, I'm curious, do you think that have you had an intense pregnancy dream?
Dude, every single night I
Tell me.
craziest dreams. Like, I'm like, why did my brain even friggin' think of that? I'm trying to think of what my dream was last night. It's actually been cool because my dad has been in my dreams a lot, which is, kind of cool to get to see him there, since he recently passed, and we were so close. But and I'm curious too, because it's always right when I fall asleep, and I thought you had to be in like deep REM sleep. I don't know too much about sleeps or dreams to be able to say, but it's always right when I fall asleep. I've been having the craziest dreams. I know last night or 2 nights ago, I had a dream that my husband, he had a BB gun, but it was like a giant machine gun. And I remember him coming into the bedroom and like play shooting me with it, and me like having my pregnancy pillow up. And I'm like, stop it. Just the most random shit that, like, why did my brain think of that?
Because I think that a lot of like what our dreams kind of overall encompass is a way of our brain bringing something, like being at peace with something, like trying to find a way to come to peace with
Yeah.
something. And I think that's why like sleep is important. For me, I only get maybe like a dream, but it's like it feels like 8 years, but it's like 20 minutes. And it's really,
Yeah.
really intense and it leaves me kind of baffled, but somehow afterwards I feel refreshed. Like there's very few times when you ask somebody when they sleep, how like they feel good, you slept, right? And you go, no, I feel the same. It's like, is that sleep though? But the sleep when you wake up and you feel refreshed always to me happens after a dream that I have.
Yeah. I mean, I know what you're saying because lately I do not get refreshing sleep. I'm up literally every single hour, going pee, if not less than that. So, and yeah, that's why I'm not even sure how I'm dreaming because I thought you had to go into real deep REM sleep to be able to dream, but I'm still dreaming. But yeah, I know what you're saying. I haven't had a refreshing night's sleep in a long time. You wake up and feel like you didn't sleep at all, even though you slept, you did, like, it doesn't feel like you did. And ugh, it just gives me the worst headaches. That's why I'm just happy to not have to go to work.
That's what leads to people being pissed off all the time is they wake up and they're
Hmm.
not refreshed after their sleep and they get in their car and drive to the whatever job they're going to, and then
So
someone says
shitty.
hi, like Walmart, for instance. Recently, I just went this morning. They have no more self checkout like how they used to have the self checkout. They used to have like a bunch of
Really?
machines out in the open to self checkout. Now there's like individual upgraded machines, but there's only 4 instead of 12. And I'm like,
Huh.
what, we're a beach town, tourists are coming or tourists are still here, and you think that 4, like, what is this going to do, reduce the flow and reduce stealing? I don't understand it, but that's like, I don't know, that's what they only accept card now, and that's just because they can, in case you do take something without paying for it, they can just charge your card without you even knowing.
Oh, okay. See, I wondered why they were doing that. I thought maybe it had something to do, I don't know, like conspiracy shit. You know what I mean? With
They're
the whole
fun.
like corn shortage and yeah, yeah. I was curious about that though, but I wonder if that's gonna happen at my Walmart. I know some people don't like the self checkout, but I actually like the self checkout. If I don't have a lot of things, even actually, I guess even if I do have a lot of things, I like self checkout. I know some people don't. They think that if they're shopping in a store, they should have someone to bag it or whatever. But that's very interesting. I wonder why that happened.
I think the most important part about self checkout is not, I don't like the disconnect from like not having anybody to talk to. Like I think that small interaction probably can improve somebody's day. I know people, that's why they essentially look for a checkout with a person so they can talk to someone just for that split second. But self checkout
Yeah,
also helps you work at your own pace. And I think with the world, that's kind of how we have to look at now. Like when you were a kid, they did class they did classes, but everyone was taught at the same speed. But then what about the kids that need individual help? Okay, well, they got their own separate class with their own separate room, and it's like, now you're showing that they're the outliers and they're kind of the freaks in a way. Like when I was a kid, I
yeah,
had enrichment and enhancement classes. It's not that I couldn't read well. I had read at like a 12th grade reading level when I was in 3rd grade. I was very good at reading. I could read a book like it was nothing, but I was lazy as shit. Like I had ADHD and nobody understood what ADHD was back then. They used to just lock me
yeah,
in a
yeah,
room. And when I was in this class with all these kids, it was a bunch of people that were just reading, like could stutter on one word for like 50 minutes straight. And I'm sitting there like, read. I'm on page 10. Let's go. I want to go back to my class. But I
yeah,
didn't notice how I look at it now where I'm like, oh, no wonder I feel like I never fit in a lot of places. It's not that I think differently. It's that I've always been treated different. So then you start to realize like it's better if we lived in a society where people can work at their own pace. If you can get all your work done in 10 minutes compared to the person that needs 7 hours or 8 hours to do that, then you should just get paid to do the work that you get done, all of it done in 10 minutes, and then go fucking home. You don't need to be there all day. There's no point.
yeah, yeah. No, I would agree with that. I was the same actually when I was little. I was in the higher reading category. And I guess I'm the type where I prefer to have uh minimal human interaction, and that probably goes back to my social anxiety, which is a lot better than it used to be, but still I don't know why I'm so weird about phone calls. Like I
Mhm.
dread having to call places or having to talk to people on the phone. I feel bad. My father-in-law thinks I don't like him because I never answer his phone calls. My husband had to tell him, he's like, don't feel bad, she doesn't answer anyone's phone calls, she hates the phone. So yeah, I can't relate to that, but I could see where that's a really great point because I know my grandpa had dementia and stuff. He would he would talk to anyone who would listen. So that's important. That's important too, for sure.
I just think this is what, like, when you hear about a news report where the guy goes, this person did this thing, you're like, oh my God, it's horrible. And it's like, well, they look back in his past and they see that he's been kind of crazy. And it's like, what do you mean? He's like, well, he's always been secluded. He's always been by himself. It's like, no shit. That's what led him to do the damn thing, is that his whole entire life, nobody ever gave him any attention. And it caused like,
Yeah.
so this is crazy. This just happened recently. There's a girl I work with, or used to work with. She comes into the gym and I'm working out and she goes, Robbie, I need to talk to you. I'm like, about what? And she goes, there's a person I work with at the daycare just got arrested. And I'm like, got arrested for what? Child pornography. This guy had been working there for about like 8 years, and they raided his place for drugs. They found so many child pornography things. And she was like, I have to go to work tomorrow and I want this whole place shut down for investigation. I was like, what do you
Yeah.
mean? To see if there's anything deeper down here. I'm new to this job. How long has this been going on? If he's been working there this long, like how long has this
Yeah.
been a constant thing? And I'm like, yeah, like I don't know what to say. And she's like, this isn't the first person either. There's been two out of the whole total of this whole entire company. There's been two people like this. And I'm like, fuck, I don't know. I don't know what I have no clue. That's, to me, that's a baffling thing where I look at, like, there's obviously
Yeah.
some trauma in the past, but I don't know. It's nuts to me.
Dude, that's fucked up. That's
It's
fucked up.
it's a big event here right now, so that's why I had to bring it up. I
Is
was
it
like,
is it in the news and stuff?
I think it's in our local news. I don't know if that hit like major platforms everywhere, but probably eventually.
I cannot understand people into that. I oh, it's just so sick. It's so sick. And I feel so bad for these children, who they're gonna be mentally scarred and messed up
That's where
forever. And
like,
that's
yeah, I took psychology classes, and I went to school for chemical dependency, as
yeah,
we talked the first time. But I look at
yeah,
that like this is all environmental stuff, where like this is why I tell people, like, there's no template for being a parent. You don't know what
yeah.
my dad was like, I got lucky. I was like, what do you mean got lucky? I was like, yeah, because I look back at every moment in my life that could have turned me into something horrible. And I was like, I took it in a different way. And everything is a gamble. You just got to pray to God your kid doesn't do something fucking stupid when they get older. And I mean, I think that's every parent's worst nightmare, is like,
Yeah,
what
it is.
22-year-old that has to blow into a whistle to move. It's like, what happened? Oh, he went head first into the shallow end of a fucking pool. Like, that's scary to me.
Oh,
And I don't even have kids. Like, that's the biggest fear, is like, you don't know what that one slip up could be. And the next thing you know, your kid's doing something crazy.
dude, that is my biggest nightmare. And I just said that to my husband the other day. I said, what if, because I feel like the addiction gene, it's on definitely on my side of the family, and it's in his side of the family too. And I said, like, what if God, like, this is our payback? And I said, a child, I feel like, has the power to break your heart like no other human being does. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I pray to God, you do the best you can, but then there's people I know who, because most addicts, not all, and I'm bringing it back to addiction because I guess that's what I can relate to, but most addicts have been through something, or they're traumatized, and that's why they use drugs to numb the feelings. Like, there's a reason. But there are some people I know who had like perfect childhoods, great wonderful families, and for whatever reason they still turn out fucked up. And that's my biggest fear is, we could do everything right, we could do everything to the best of our ability, and
Well,
anything could happen, and it could tear your heart out. And what do you do,
but there is no everything right, because all those people that
Yeah,
have everything like a gold spoon in their mouth and everything is handed to them, that is also riddled with insecurities and riddles with its own pain as well. That's the thing about life, is like when people talk about like everyone's mental health is different. It is, because every single person's life is different, and through life you just somehow suck in a little bit of this depression, or a little bit of these anxieties, or a little bit of mental health, and then eventually it becomes too much, depending on how much you suck in. It's about what you let in. We talk about gatekeeping of information. They're blocking certain things on the internet and then allowing other things, where it's like, this seems backwards. But there's the gatekeeping when it comes to your mental health, and you are that person that's in charge of your own mental health. If you look at something in a certain way and you harbor on the fact that you don't have this certain thing, why don't you look at the fact of the things that you do have? And I know I don't want to turn that into a motivational thing, but it's why I tell people, I'm like, the fact that you hear someone died at the age of 90, like, oh, that's so sad. I'm like, that person lived to be fucking 90. Back
Yeah.
when the settlers or whatever were coming over here, that was like 23. People were taking over the world at 23. I mean, don't be upset that you're living to be 90. Those people had to make up for lost time because they were going to die in 5 years. You have like 70, 80 something years of your life that you get to or make a whole timeline of events good, not just one significant moment. And I think everyone bases off of like that one moment, that one peak. When I hear people who are doing like a podcast, for instance, like famous people that I look up to, they talk about like Joe Rogan didn't hit whatever he's at till 10 years. I'm not a Joe Rogan, but it brings in a little slimmer of hope when you look at like, okay, so
Yeah.
I'm basing off of what this person already has. And it's kind of hard. I don't have any established things out there of like I'm not a popular comic or an actor. I'm just a fucking guy doing a podcast talking to people. So it's like there's nothing established there, but I think you can sense value or something can bring something to someone. And what I consider value is the fact of what people have made connections through my show, or people that have got something from just being on it, or maybe a new friend like yourself. You know what I mean? That's something that is extremely valuable. I just wish it wasn't so tasking trying to get guests. Good God.
Oh yeah, man. I feel like I can relate to that too. And here's where I go differently. And someone explained this to me once. There's two types of people. There's people who have all these different ideas, and they put a little bit of energy into each one of them and nothing really ever comes of it. Or there's people who put all of their energy into one train of thought, like one idea, and they're putting their all into it, which I feel like would be you with your podcast. And eventually, it goes somewhere. And those type of people, not to say that the people with the one idea, the one energy is better than somebody like me. My husband's also the same way as me. We have tons of little great ideas, but we put a little energy into it and then move on to this other idea, you know and I wish I was a little bit more like you. It's just you have to have patience, and I am not a patient person, and I got to figure out what I eventually want to be a stay-at-home mom. I want to be home to raise my daughter, and I got to figure out something to do from home.
Like
And
homeschool or personal or like public school still?
I'm if she were like if she were here and she was starting school tomorrow, definitely homeschool. But it's hard to say what the environment will be in 5 6 years, when she's ready to go to school. So I'm not sure yet what her school situation will be, but either way, my husband too, he'd like to have me home. It's a lot to work 10, 11, 12-hour days and then come home and make dinner and keep the house clean. And we split all the chores. But ideally we would like for me to be home and to be able to do all that stuff. I mean, I know people have different opinions on stay-at-home moms or whatever, but if I were to stay home, I would have to figure out something to bring an income in, because I'm used to my own paycheck. I like being independent. My husband's already told me that he would take care of me and cover the bills, but I wouldn't be okay with that. I have always made my own money. I pay my own car payment, things like that. So I'm trying to figure out something where I can be home and still make a paycheck. And I have tons of little good ideas, but I have to figure it out and dive in and put all my energy into it. And it's hard because I'm not patient.
You're better than I am. Holy crap. I would love to be a stay-at-home dad. Just
Yeah.
somebody else pays my bills. Maybe I don't know. I'm lazy in that way, I would say. But the fact that you still want to work and make your own income as well too. I wouldn't see, that's the thing is like I'd rather make, because I was going to have after I got my video flagged off YouTube, I was having a company reach out to me. I was a part of a network where they had like shows that weren't on certain channels because of the things that they say. And there was going to be a payout of like maybe there's a possible idea of getting 60,000 a year. And then I went to do this call thing where this guy was going to have call me up and see if it would work out. It didn't work out. Mostly he never called. So I was like, all right, I just took that as a sign as like, you just got to keep kind of pursuing on. And I mean, hopefully it's not all for nothing. That would be nice. I mean, I'm not asking for much. I'm just asking for 60 grand. But at the same time, I'm
Right.
also receiving more of a benefit as well as it too, is the fact of like, it is fun doing what I do. I
Yeah.
mean, this isn't my day job, obviously. I would still work a regular 9 to 5. Well, odd hours. I work like 3 o'clock in the morning till like noon. But
Yeah.
it's it's a definitely it's a bit of a time suck, but that's the way that it comes off. It's more than that. It's actually a benefit to really experience and hear stories and gather information and really process a lot, because I think when I look at my first few episodes compared to where I'm at now, there's a lot more critical thinking that goes on. And everyone likes to say that they're a critical thinker. I don't even know if I am, but real critical thinking, when you can look at something that's being said and see it in multiple different perspectives to be able to sort through what this person might have meant, because nobody asked the question, is this what you meant? Most of the time
Yeah.
people jump to an assumption of this is what that person means. Even when I get a text, sometimes I'll get a text and I'll read it wrong, like what's the issue, and they're like, nothing's the issue, I'm just telling you this. But if you voice text, if you do something like
Yeah.
that, there's the conspiracy. The phone companies are trying to get you pissed off at your family or get you pissed off at your friends. So then you stay on your phone arguing back and forth instead of quick text messages.
Right. Texting is hard. Texting or messaging is hard because you can't hear the person's tone or whatever, you know. I like to think of myself as a critical thinker, but when you just said it like that, it's like, yeah, am I don't know, because everyone is so it's hard not to just, think that you know what someone else means. But I
I
don't
think
know. It's
I
hard.
think I think you are a critical thinker, because most people would jump to a conclusion when they see a profile like that, and they like if they saw your image being used. Most people, like myself, probably would jump on the train of being like, I'm gonna make sure this person, I'm gonna call Instagram and do all this. Now, you might have called Instagram for sure, but then most people would have put up posts all about it saying, screw this person, this is crazy. And you did it insane, like, this isn't me, just report it. And then you don't
Yeah.
really think about it. Now, you do have other things on the horizon as well too, like with a baby, for instance. But most people spend their whole entire day just constantly refreshing their feed, checking that. That's not a critical thinker. That's not a person that is the, the I don't want to give a suggestion out there, and I don't want to be a motivational person, but the easiest thing that we do on a daily basis is we let evil harbor into our brain and we never let it leave. And sadly, that's what we all do. Nobody is above doing that. I do it all the time. I sit there and I'll focus on something that happened a while ago and I'll never let it go. But what's like the political
Mm,
stuff, for instance, I've
mm.
been getting mad at the politics stuff, but I can't
Oh,
be mad at something I can't change, or I'm essentially going to drag myself into the deepest, darkest pits of hell. And there's no
yes.
point in doing that, because it's just wasting my life and nobody else is understanding what I am getting upset about. They don't care. They don't know who I am. So my life being ruined is no sweat on their back. So what's the point? The best thing I can do is to make sure that I'm not a fucked up human being, and doing everything I possibly can to make sure that I'm not harming anybody and I'm enjoying the life, the one ride I got on this thing, or depending on if you believe in reincarnation, which I don't. But you got one ticket. I mean, might as well use the rest of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree so much. And that's why are you familiar with the Serenity Prayer at
Nope.
all? Okay, it's a AA thing. Uh, it's quick. I'll say it. It's God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I'm not a religious person. I am a spiritual person, but I say that prayer every day because it is so important. Because what is the point of dwelling on shit that you cannot change? Like, it is a waste of energy. And for a while there, I was hung up on politics. And I've always liked to think of myself as woke, and I feel like there's two sides of that these days. Uh, But around election time, I really, really started digging in and researching, and a lot of things became apparent and obvious to me. And for a while there, I was really, really scared, and I was consumed, and I was upset, and I was angry, and I felt out of control. But I had to let it go. And I can't change it. You know what I mean? What can I do? So I did the one thing I can do is I stopped worrying about it. I focus on myself. How can I be a good person? And you know, it's such a waste of energy to be upset and bothered and worried about things that we have no control over. And there's so many things that we have absolutely zero control over. The only thing we have control over is ourselves and how we react. And if we're a good person and the vibes and the energy that we put out into the world. So I think that's really important. And I say that prayer multiple times a day to remind myself, because there is so many things that you could get upset about that you really have no control over. And you have to figure out what it is that you do have control over and work on that. It's easier said than done, but I try to remind myself of that multiple times a day.
Nobody wants their time wasted, but people are more than happy to waste their time investing into something that isn't going to cause anything. So many
Yeah.
people tweet about an issue or talk about an issue that's not about this area or about this general location. And it's like there's nothing we can do as people. People, we can get together and we can form. Trying to get everybody on one side can easily destroy anything in our path. The people are strong, but trying to get every single person to talk about one specific issue without looking at something else is a factor that's damn near impossible. You could spend
Yeah.
so much of your time depositing little quarters of your soul into a jar and hope that it's going to end up filling up one day. But then you realize that jar is bottomless. There's no end to that. That's just going to constantly keep getting bits and pieces of you until eventually you're broken down. So the easiest thing that you can do is try your best every single day to not harbor on the things and all the influences of the outside world and just focus on yourself and make sure you're doing everything you possibly can to be just a person.
Hmm.
I mean, human beings, like what I do is I get interested in like crazy ass documentaries and shit. Bob Ross documentary is nuts to me, but then there's like a picture of a giant Egyptian dude holding a block, like a hieroglyph of like one of those blocks to build the pyramids, and then they show the
Yeah.
actual block of the pyramid and it's like the size of like a house. And then they're starting
Yeah.
to think like, hey, maybe the Egyptians were like 900 feet tall and able to carry these blocks, and that's how they built the pyramids. I'm like, I know that's not true from what we know, but hell, what's real anymore? It might be.
Right? Yeah. What is real anymore? That is a great question. I ask myself that all the time. It's so hard to decipher. It is such a crazy time we live in, but I remind myself that there's been so many other points in history where people were thinking the same thing, that this is crazy, this is unheard of, or it's the end of the world, or a few people think Jesus is about to come back, whatever it may be.
Well, yeah,
But
what's with all the
what
Christian references that are getting tossed out now? I'm seeing like John 3:16 and all these different quotes and all this. And I'm like, is this the apocalypse? I hope it is. I really do. This is the best
some
end I've ever seen.
people think that, but oh, I had an alarm go off. Okay. Yeah. Some people think that it's the apocalypse or the returning of Christ. And I mean, I've never read the Bible front to back. I For a while there I was interested in it and read some of it and familiar with some of it. And I mean, a lot of things that are happening are in the Bible, but I mean, I'm not a religious person. I'm more spiritual, and I don't know how to really explain that well. Like, I think that there's something I call him God, but other people who are spiritual call him like creator. I don't know what it is. I know there's something bigger than me, you know. And I don't know. I don't really think that. I don't know. Maybe Jesus is coming back, but I don't think that's I don't think that's gonna happen. I feel like that's kind of, to me, it seems like a fairy tale. I mean, not that that is like a happy ending story. You know what I mean? I guess I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but it just seems like that wouldn't really happen. You know what I mean? Or some people think that we're about to have like an alien invasion. I've heard that too.
That's a bad end. I hope it just ends with like everyone just like, I don't know. fighting over like Antifa wars or something like that. I don't know.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I hope nothing like that
There's-
happens, or like World War III or nuclear bombs. So much messed up shit could happen. And that's what I was worried about for a little while, was like just having the most fucked up things in my head of what could happen, or God forbid, like what if the country we're in like turned out like Afghanistan, like stuff like that, things that are going on over there. Oh man, it's scary, but you can't focus on that. You can't, or else you're gonna drive yourself wild. You're gonna drive yourself crazy.
um, yeah, I don't see, because I've had too many dreams about like heaven. So people are like, maybe it's a premonition. And then I've had someone say, like, I've had multiple dreams about getting shot. So I don't even know what that means. So if that's a premonition of dying that way, I don't know. Dreams are intense, but I think you pull something out of it, to be honest with you. You know, when I had a dream about like was in heaven or whatever you would call just clouds up in the sky, like any movie thing, and you get to these gates, and then I'm like, what is this, heaven? And then a voice just says, it is whatever you want it to be. And then I'm like,
Hmm.
okay. I was like, am I allowed in? And they goes, do you think you should be allowed in? And then I'm like, well, there's probably a billion people out there that are worth more in this position than I am in. And then the doors just opened up. So I'm like, those are just intense shit where I'm like,
Interesting.
I don't necessarily believe in that. But at the same time, it's something in my head where it's like if you think that you're worthless in more aspects than one, you actually are worth more than you know. So I'm like, that's important shit that someone needs probably on their daily basis, where that just pops in your head when you're thinking about jumping off of your roof, and it just fucking changes your whole day.
Yeah, there's got to be something, you know? That's what I tell myself. I don't know what it is out there, but there has to be something, you know? And then what you were just saying about dreams, it's just so crazy because our brains make that up, you know? And I feel like it has to be something connected to your subconscious. Like,
We
why does our brain make this up? What is it trying to tell us? And then I get so frustrated when I cannot remember little details of my dream. You know what I mean? I'll wake up in the middle of the night. I'm like, oh my God, that dream was crazy. I can't wait to tell my husband about the next morning. And then the next morning, I can't remember any of it. And it's so frustrating.
You know that every single monster ever created, or every like people like the idea of the werewolf that was created in a dream. A person dreamt up the werewolf. You know that your brain cannot create new images or new faces. It takes bits and pieces of things that
Yeah.
it's seen and forms it into one. So the werewolf is like a mix between a bear and a hyena and all these different animals that he turned into this thing, and that's what his brain envisioned. So it like
Yeah.
a lot of times in my dreams, people don't really have faces. They kind of just there.
That's interesting. So is it just like blank?
Well, it's more like I'm seeing blank. I get it, but more like I'm seeing the back of the heads, or I'm seeing like a lot of time it's not even me. Like when it's a dream or something, I'm like a third person camera out in the back.
Yeah.
Is your car making a lot of noise over there?
Yeah, I don't, it says that I'm like on a phone call. I don't know if it's counting what we're doing as a phone call. Let me hold on. Ending call. It's not, my car's off, so I don't know. Okay, you can hear me fine,
I
right?
can hear you fine.
No?
Yeah, I
Okay.
can hear
Well,
you.
I'm not gonna worry about it then.
Okay.
It's, it says I'm on the phone, but I think it's just picking up what I'm doing because it's not
Because your
ringing or anything.
husband's like, she's been out in the car for an hour and a half. She's not doing a podcast. She's talking to someone else out there.
Oh God, no way.
Just wait till he sees the episode. Then he'll be like, okay, she was doing what she said she was doing.
Yeah. What did he call it? I forget. He messed up a few words because I said, "Oh, I gotta go out to the car and do a podcast." What do you say it? He said something. He's like, "Oh, which one? Into the blank or something like that." And I was like, yeah,
Close,
"Well, you were
close,
close."
close for no cigar.
He always listens when I do one.
I think the best part about our dreams is, like I said before, they're a door to who we are as people, or door to our problems that we don't really pay attention to. And I think that from
Yeah.
what I've talked to sleep scientists, they say possibility. Yeah. I don't like the idea that like when it comes to spiritual meditation and astral projection, I just think it doesn't, I think those things are a form that help you be able to unlock, or like much like a healer talks about using crystals. The crystals make you
Yeah.
feel like you have more healing powers because it's now an object that you're using. A form of meditation will make it seem like it'll get you more in touch with that. Do I necessarily think that's what it does? No, I think our brains are very, very powerful and we don't understand a sliver of what it is. Why is it that there's certain tissue in our bodies that'll regenerate, but anything inside of your brain tissue does not come back? But there's been
Yeah.
certain rare cases where it has. So I'm like, I'm fascinated. Why are we going to Mars? Can we just focus on our bodies first? Maybe we can fly and we don't know it yet.
Right, dude. I'm fascinated with all that too. Astral projecting. Like, I wish I could have gotten, I mean, I still meditate, not as often as I used to, but some of the things that people are capable of doing, oh my God, it is fascinating. And we should look into that more. And I was just talking to my husband the other day because part of me is really, really nervous about giving birth. And also I've been upset lately because my dad won't be here to be a grandpa or whatever. But I've been seeing every time it's 3:33 or 5:55, I noticed the time. I've been seeing threes and fives everywhere. And I was telling my husband, like, you know, even if that doesn't mean anything, it makes me feel better. And I believe it means something, that I believe in repetitive numbers or sequence of numbers. I believe in all that stuff. Some people may think it's corny, whatever. But to me, it brings me peace and it makes me feel better. So even if some of that stuff is not real, I feel like it doesn't matter because, it works in making people feel better to just believe in something. So
Do you
I
ever
think that's my dad.
do you ever think that it's your babies maybe releasing some chemicals to help you get there? Like, because when a pregnant woman, if she hurts herself, a baby will purposely send cells to whatever area that is to help you heal faster. So I'm curious,
Really?
like with pregnancy dreams, a lot of times when they get to see, like, I saw my baby as an adult before obviously it happens, it's a factor of like your brain is they're noticing something that's off about you, or you're not stable in some way, so they're trying to help you
Hmm.
by sending certain things to that area.
That's very interesting. I'll have to look into that. I've never heard of that. It makes sense though. I believe it. The human body is fascinating, and the human brain, the human mind. It really is. Truly is.
It's definitely a mystery, and I'm surprised that a lot of people aren't more interested in that. I'm like, if we just all focus on one problem at a time, we could probably get more things done than focusing on, like what you were saying before about being good in a bunch of different aspects. Jack of all trades, master of none is a compliment today. But jack of all
Yeah.
trades, master of none was an insult back in the day. It means you can never focus in on one thing. It went from
Yeah.
an insult to now a compliment. I think you should be good in all different aspects of your life. Now, if you put more time into one, you might see more growth out of it. But I feel like everybody's path is a little bit different.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, for sure. That's how my dad was. He was a jack of all trades, master of none, you know? Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm the same way too, for sure.
I think you're going to do all right as a parent.
Thank you. I hope so. I'm looking forward to it. I'm pretty confident it's going to be good. I think me and my husband we put a lot of effort into things and we put a lot of thought into things. We're thoughtful people and we're reasonable people and I think you couldn't ask for more. Like you said, there's no perfect way to be, or there's no yes or no answer with parenting and what's correct. And I think we're just going to do the best we can. And I think we've both been through things in life that are hard lessons, and we have a lot of life experience, and we're also older parents. I mean, not to say that we're like old, but 33 and 37 for our first children. So we've had a little more life experience. And I think that's going to help too.
Well, is there anything you want to tell the people out there before we wrap up the podcast?
Um, I guess same thing I always say, just stay grateful, count your blessings. Tomorrow's never promised. I think that's it.
I like that. Tomorrow's never promised.
It is. Yeah. Dude, there's just been so much death lately within my family. I feel like other people I know, it just makes you not take anything for granted and really love and appreciate the people that you have while they're here. It's 11:11. See, repetitive numbers.
Well, I appreciate you, Sarah, for doing this podcast and also doing it while in the driver's seat of your car.
Of
Uh,
course.
but I appreciate everyone listening to this episode, and thanks, and see you on the next Ride Around.